Cesar. This is going to be our 2-year-old class. Super important to set expectations, just like we do with the 3-year-olds, 4-year, like all the bigger kids. I do the same thing with the parent and me classes. The only good thing about this is that you only have to say it once because parents always remember like what the class is about. So I just say this is a class that we're going to go ahead and start learning structure. So super important, like just follow along. If you have any questions, I will be free to answer. So we always start over here on this side, or depending on where it doesn't matter where you are, but we always start with a warm-up circuit. So as soon as we go into the gym, I'll say like, hey, like if it's a new family, I'll be like, we're gonna be on the circuit over here by the yellow line. We're just gonna go around in circles. So here we hang on the bar. Again, if they're scared, like don't push them to do anything that they're not comfortable doing. We don't want them to be afraid and not want to come back to gym. So always make sure that you know kind of boundaries and not to scare children. Another thing that I like to do is like I touch base with every parent in my class. There's 8 kids in my class, in each Kittens class. So I make sure that I get to each kid and be like, hey, if someone's swinging by the bars and kicking the balls, I'll be like, yeah, push with your 2 feet. Or if we're on the beam, yeah, I just make sure that everyone feels acknowledged and spoken to, so that way they know that they matter, because they do. Also, one thing that I did, low key, I started to ask some of our kittens' parents, and what is it that keeps them coming back to Desert Gym Cats for kittens classes? And they said, we like the way that you guys teach. We love that you give the kids like an almost like an icebreaker. A lot of them have never been to gym, so when they come in and they kind of start exploring, I love how you guys kind of just let them do their thing in the area that they're supposed to be, and kind of like jump in and be like, oh, no, that thing is like blue. Can you touch blue? Kind of just make them feel comfortable. So that's one of the things that they said that they really like about our gym, that we're not militant and we're like, we gotta be in this corner, like come and follow around here. We kind of let them explore. Another thing that I asked was, like, would you recommend like other 2-year-olds to come to our gym? And they would say, yes, of course. Like one of my classes on Fridays, like half of them is one mom inviting like five people that she met at the library for story time. So this is how like we've grown, just word of mouth, our teaching. And then I can't remember the last thing that I asked. I asked, what can we improve on? They really like the fact that because I always like to give like verbal progress reports, like saying like, hey, like maybe today we didn't get it, we didn't follow along, but that's just going to come naturally. Gymnastics is a lot of repetition. So the more they come, it just becomes part of their routine and they'll get comfortable with it. And they said, okay, well, that's good to know, because they're like, this one's really wild, doesn't want to listen. And I go, just you encouraging them to participate, it's going to help. Like, don't worry, don't give up. Okay, perfect. All right. One helpful tip that I got from one of the kittens coaches is that when we have a really shy kid, like distracting them with like, there's like stuffy scarves, like bringing all that stuff out can make like gym time a fun time and not be so attached to their parents. Just kind of let them feel comfortable and ease them into gymnastics. Watching is learning. So if a child doesn't want to do anything and they're just watching, that's totally okay. You always want to make sure that you encourage, like never force anything on them. Perfect. Then when we're done right there, we always come to our circle time. Okay. This is one of the things that we've been seeing a lot, is sometimes we do like the same stretch for our circle time. So for example, like today, the next 2 weeks, we have travel. So when I did my butterfly, it wasn't like, hey, sit down, show me your butterfly. What color is your butterfly? It was more like, hey, let's get on our airplane. Let's fly somewhere. Dive down. We're going to go land. Where are you? And then they were like, well, we're at the beach, or we're at the park. We're at grandma's house. Just kind of use your imagination. I always like to take cues from whatever's drawn by Natalie, because that really helps with my stretching and just keeping things fresh, new, exciting. So it's not always the same thing. Yeah. Again, a pike is always much more if it's like you're driving a car, or I don't know, you're on a rowboat, just spike, or butterfly. Just change it up a bit. Okay. Also, one thing, we always want to use our voice like low, high, silly, just to make it also exciting, because like 3, 2, 1, blast off. It's just not exciting. But if we go 3, 2, 1, blast off, the kids just get excited and they'll participate with you. Next thing, also keep your, this is super important. Keep your fluidity with the class. So if one kid is running around and doesn't want to sit down, don't be like, hey, sit down, show me your butterfly. Because there's like 7 other kids already sitting down watching you that they're like just waiting for class to continue. So if that person, if that kiddo doesn't want to sit down in circle time, don't stop for them. That's why they have a parent, because the parent will bring them back to engage. You're always going to keep things moving, just because these little guys have such short attention span that you'll lose the whole class. So always want to keep moving, letting the one that's running around to eventually come back into class. Another thing, see, if some of the kiddos are having trouble with circuits, or the parents are, you could always do a little demo. You can show. I always like to, after our circle time, I always like to go and explain, like, hey, on the beam we're gonna walk and stomp on the stars up the ladder. And for a forward roll, hands up, hands down. Just to explain to the parents, so if in case I'm not around, they know how to spot or how to like tell their kids to do their prep. Hands up, hands down, look at your belly, forward roll. Yeah, just in case you're not around, so that way they know, the parents know the cue to help them with the gymnastic skill. What else was I gonna say? If you have a kid who's been in Kittens for like a while, they're almost 3, you can even have them be your demonstrator. Sometimes I grab like some of my older kids. I'm like, hey, can you show and demonstrate the circuits so our friends can understand like what we're doing? And that just makes it so easier, because then I don't have to do it. They do it. What else? Okay, perfect. Always don't forget to praise. This is super important. So sometimes like our littles sometimes get afraid to do forward rolls, like backwards rolls, stand on a beam. So sometimes like when kids get really afraid of going on the equipment, sometimes I'll just say like, hey, like, would you like to step on the beam with your 2 feet holding your mom's hand or your dad's hand? They stand there, they hold, and then they jump off, and I just go like, yeah, I make a big deal, yay, good job, you did it, you got on it. And then eventually that praise turns into like, oh, like I feel like I can do it. So then they start to follow the other kids. And then you have just a whole rotation of circuits going on with the kiddos. Another thing, for trampoline time, almost done, you guys. For trampoline time, I know sometimes like we let our kids like do 2 friends at a time. Lately I've been doing like my numbers, like I do numbers, in English and Spanish. If you know them in another language, go for it. Like, parents are really happy that you're teaching something different to the kiddos. The other day I did 2 monkeys jumping on the bed. So also for kittens, super important. We want to make sure that we have 2 kids at a time, so that way they don't bonk heads or like ping each other off. So that's super important, because when they're 3, they're no longer, this is what I like to see to my friends, they're no longer allowed to jump with other kids. It's just them by themselves. Again, do your song, do your numbers, ABCs, and then try to get them to do a seat drop. I learned that from gym cats, just to see if they want to do it. And if they don't want to do it, it's fine. I just say, just sit on your bottom, and they do, and that's fine. All right, and then lastly, during stamp time and dismissal, I always like to give like little mini progress reports to parents, saying like, hey, like I said before, today we just didn't want to do anything. That's fine. Watching is learning. If we don't feel like doing things, then that's totally fine too. Like, you don't have to do it. That's something that, like, again, one of the things that a feedback that I got is like giving progress reports to parents is something that they feel comfortable with, because I've had like moms and dads say like, oh, like they just don't want to listen, so I don't think this is for them. And I always remind them like, hey, this is just the first class. Give it some time. Don't push anything. Don't force them to do anything. If they like it, they'll do it. And if not, then you'll decide what to do. But always want to encourage those words onto them. Yeah. Any questions? Yes, Tara.
When you're beginning class, do you set the expectations with the parents of like where they need to stay?
Yes.
Parents like drift off while we're teaching class, and they'll be like on the trampoline. And usually like the coach will come back, but sometimes when you've got all 8 kids
Yeah.
and 8 parents in
Yeah.
the gym, you don't see it right away. Is that something you do ahead of time?
Yeah. And you know what? Sometimes even if you say that, they like to go, because they're like, I want my kid to just, to feel comfortable. And I always go, oh, if they're on the trampoline, because trampoline is always like the favorite time for all the toddlers. I always go, hey, you guys, come back. Like, I promise we're gonna go there. Right now, we're gonna play over here. And then if someone likes like a trampoline and we have a springboard, I'll go with them and I'll just kind of bounce and be like, look, you can bounce here. And then kind of distract him and keep him with class. But yeah, that's a very good question. I always like to say, like, during my intro, I always say like, hey, for a class, this is where we start to learn structure. Super important that we stay along with the class, just because when they turn 3, they'll be by themselves. And by just repeating this on a weekly basis, it's just going to set them for being solo with the teacher. And then they'll learn, the parents will be like, okay, so super important. So yes, we have freedom to go on to the next circuit or maybe like the bars right here, but we want to stay with coach, so that way they know, like, they follow coach. Coach is like the beacon to follow during class. Important too. uh so Super Kids is like our new class that we have, and this one has like mixed readings of like what they're supposed to do. So the expectation that I like to set, and then other Super Kids coaches, feel free to add in what works for you. I always like to say this is a class where we're trying to get ready to go on our own. If your kiddo needs assistance, please feel free to step in and direct them into where like the class is going. If they're running around and not listening, sorry, if they are doing a good job and following along well without you, like, step back. Like, please stay as far away as possible. If you say that they're not even noticing you, just go wait in the waiting room because that will help. Because some kiddos like to take advantage that grown up is in the room, and that's why they like to create chaos, because sometimes there's no structure with parent, and they just like to do whatever they want. Yes.
So for kittens classes here, I think the main difference between doing circle time with your cubs versus your kittens is that the kittens aren't able to interact as much as the cubs are. So when you're doing a cubs class and you're sitting there and you're doing butterfly, and I've heard like 95% of our coaches do this, but you send a butterfly and you go around and you say, what color is your butterfly? And you move around to all the kids, you have them answer. You can't really do that with kittens. First of all, there's 8 of them. Like, it's a little ridiculous to go around. Second of all, they can hardly talk at this point. Like, they can't really give answers. So, Trish and Cesar are really good. I watched a bunch of classes, but Trish and Cesar are really good at just getting them moving and keeping them moving. There's no stopping and asking questions. It's constantly like, we're doing a butterfly, now we're doing a table, and it's adding in imagination, of course, throughout that entire thing. But it's going from one thing to another, back to back to back.
Yeah.
And Carla, I don't know if you guys know Carla. She did a bunch of really fun stuff with the child and the parent together. Like, she would sit down and have them sit in front of their knees, and then she'd rock back and have them rock on their knees, and that's like a really fun like parent-child thing. She had them sit on their tummy and do a table, or sit and roll as well, which is really fun for them too. So if you can add in anything that like really changes the dynamic from a kittens to a cubs class, then I think the parents will find more value in it, instead of, going around one by one and asking me what is. Another thing that Gym Cats does that our parents or our coaches don't really do, which I think is cool, they'll do object retrieval with their kittens classes. So they'll have the parents sit on one side, and then they'll tell the kids to run, grab something at the other end, and bring it back to their moms. And I think that's like a really fun thing that we could try to add in as well. And then once they get a little bit older, they'll add in more complex things like, oh, can you go grab the red item from over there? And then they'll try to run and grab it, that kind of stuff. So if anybody else has like cool ideas like that we can add into our kittens classes, please let me know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it.
That's it.